Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. As we look around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, not only are we looking for the technologies, the processes, the products, and the people, but we're also looking for organizations that are making a real difference as we do move through the 21st century. And one of those, of course, is the United Nations, a very important international body, but also something that we may not know so much about is the United Nations Association of the USA, and why that's so important and how it fits in to the global broader strategy of the United Nations. We have Farah Eck, she's the Senior Director of UNAUSA, and about why it's so important that we have this organization within the United States. Farah, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Many thanks.
Glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about the UNAUSA, and then we'll say a few words about the Global and Sustainable Development Goals, and then we'll share about some of these that we're going to be covering in this program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for having me on to talk about the United Nations Association of the USA, which is the largest grassroots organization of Americans who are dedicated to supporting the values and the principles of the United Nations. We have more than 20,000 members across the country who inspire, who educate, and who mobilize because they care so deeply about the United Nations.
I think that's absolutely miraculous that you have that number of people, 20,000 people across the United States. That really says much about volunteerism, leadership among the population within the nation. But the Sustainable Development Goals, why are these so important? And exactly what are Sustainable Development Goals?
Sure. The Sustainable Development Goals are really a blueprint that UN member states collaborated on and agreed upon as that guiding path, if you will, to lifting up those in poverty, to combating injustice, to combating climate change, etc. So these 17 SDGs, as they're known, are really the goals, and then there are sub-targets. So they're really an actionable way for each member state to also measure their progress towards each of these 17 SDGs.
Mm-hmm. Well, you teed it up very well for both of us here because your tagline is the past, present, and progress. It's very interesting that you have that term progress in this motto. Why progress, and why is this incorporated in the Sustainable Development Goals?
Sure. So rather than using the word future, which is infinite and not necessarily measurable, progress is measurable. And so it's really key for us as a nonpartisan advocacy organization to think about making a difference and measuring impact while we're doing it. So our members call their members of Congress and they say, we care about the Sustainable Development Goals, we care about the UN, so please ensure that this is conveyed at all levels of Congress and our U.S. government.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very important. But looking at the global goals, it seems very broad, but at the same time, the fact is that each nation and the people within those nations can select out of there what
suits them best. How were these selected, and why were they selected across such broad spectrum of the world?
Right. So the SDGs are actually kind of a second iteration. First, there were the Millennium Development Goals. And so those were measured and evaluated. And then there was actually this great consultative process for a few years where citizens of the member states actually came together and raised their hand and said, these are the things that are important to my country, to my community. And so collectively, they sat around the table as member states and said, these are the 17 goals that will help us all to achieve prosperity, justice, and reducing the effects of climate change.
And when you look at the names on these, I thought these are very interesting naming protocols as far as these 17 sustainable development goals. But you look at it, they really go to this notion of progress. And I think this is something that all seems to fit very nicely together. Looking at Sustainable Development Goal number 8, tell us a little bit about that. And we're going to go through some of those that we're going to be talking about more specifically.
Sure. So 8 is decent work in economic growth. And I do want to mention that all 17 of the SDGs are very interrelatable and very relevant to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So for number 8 in particular, that might be considering a living wage, that might be access to opportunities to work. And so various UN agencies kind of focus on, for example, the International Labor Organization, ILO, focuses on this goal in particular. So there's really a goal for everyone and every UN agency to kind of address.
Now, climate action, this is something climate change, climate action, environmental protection, taking care of Mother Earth. This is something that really is becoming universal as far as a goal, and any of these 17 can incorporate this climate action. So, why climate action itself?
I think climate action, that the term is fantastic because it doesn't talk necessarily only about climate change. It talks about action. What are the things that we can do? And we being not only Americans, but we being global citizens, what can we do to ensure a reduction of pollution, of our oceans, of our air? So climate action, as you alluded to, is very comprehensive and can be broad. But I think that's a fantastic way for someone who's interested in protecting the climate to learn more about active engagement.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier about the Sustainable Development Goals. It's actionable labels as well as this progress. So I think that it all matches very nicely together. Partnerships for the goals. Partnerships are critically important. Why and how do we achieve partnerships when you're, in essence, incorporating the entire planet in that?
For sure. And that's the basic premise of the UN, right? Is to multilaterally work together to benefit all. And so I think that 17 is such a great capstone, if you will, of the previous 16 SDGs, in that you can't go it alone. Whether you're an individual, whether you're an organization, there needs to be some solid partnerships in order to collaborate and to work together to achieve the targets that fall under the particular sustainable development goal.
And I think it would be a gross understatement to say there's literally tens of thousands of partners in this whole process as far as number 17, but embedded in all the 16 that come before this. So these partnerships are really critically important to develop the planet, to protect it, because it's our spaceship in the universe. We certainly have to take care of it. These young eyes, why are children involved at such an early age with the United Nations Association of the United States?
Yes, we are really fortunate that more than 60% of our members are our youth members. And it's never too early to start thinking about how you have civic responsibilities and how to take civic action. So even if you're under the voting age, it's important to recognize that you have responsibilities and you have a duty within your community to think about. You see the photo here of the young boy holding up Life Below Water. That's one way that he can basically harness his passion potentially for life underwater and make a change that will impact him later on in his older years.
Now, we keep talking about the green Earth, but a friend of mine says the Earth is blue. Of course, it's covered, well, almost 3/4 or more with water, so that makes perfect sense. So, all of our youth need to understand this, the interaction between the land, the air, and everything else that's going on around it. As far as water is concerned. So it's amazing they're starting at such a young age to do this. Global Engagement Online Series. What is this? I didn't even know about this.
Otherwise fondly known as GEOS. It's basically our answer to having virtual programming that connects average Americans who may not know anything about the United Nations or may be interested in learning more about the United Nations, and providing them with programming year-round that connects them to UN special experts, to relevant UN topics, etc. And as you mentioned, there are so many UN agencies that we would have programming for many, many years to come.
Yeah, I just think it's fantastic. And I like these taglines. This is so clever. United for our future. United Nations. I mean, it's just everything is so clever in what you're doing. Looking at developing leadership now for the 21st century, this tagline is very, very important. But why do we want youth to be involved before they graduate from even middle school, high school, university to become involved? And actually be leaders today, not just waiting for some magical time in the future.
Right. At UNAUSA, capacity development is a really core benefit of being a member of the movement. And so, what we offer are, as you saw with GEOS, programming. We also have a lot of educational initiatives. So, all of these are to bring not only young people, but seasoned advocates together and have them continue their leadership trajectory as they want to take more action, as they want to contact and communicate their members of Congress to convey the importance that they feel that the U.S. has as a good and solid relationship with the United Nations.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and this is something that we keep talking about: youth, the citizens of the future, the leaders of the future. But what you're saying, Farah, is very true. Is that they're leaders today? They don't have to wait to the future. I mean, it's right now when they need to be involved, and that energy and the innovative nature, inquisitiveness, the wonderment of being involved, I think is just absolutely fantastic. We're going to go out on this. Why women in the United Nations, and why is it so important that we engage females, young girls to be involved today as leaders? And then we're going to go out on that.
What a great thing to go out on. Of course, with women and girls being 50% of the world's population, it's important that they also have a seat at the table to make decisions that resonate and have an impact on women and girls. And so I think it's really important to see strong female leaders, such as the Deputy Secretary General that you see there, to be able to say confidently, we are here and we are here to make decisions and we are here to implement positive impact.
And I think we'll go out on that right now. There could be no better summary than what you just gave us, Farah. This is Farah Eck. She's the Senior Director of the UNAUSA. And it's just fantastic to have you and the outstanding work that you're actually doing. And I like this. Past, present, and progress is a way to do this. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you so much.